The second Mario movie, well, the second one made by Illumination, is less than a year away. I didn't think I would be saying that not too long ago, but this is the reality we live in now apparently. Say what you will about the 2023 film, but it respects Mario as a property. All the music and Easter eggs and beautiful visuals. I think one thing you have to give it credit for is that the people making it clearly loved the franchise. It doesn't alienate its fans, and it's not ashamed to be a video game adaptation. So we can only assume the sequel coming out in April will follow suit, but I have my doubts about some other things. Clearly, the 2023 film is not a perfect movie, so I thought I'd make this here video to yap about my hopes for the upcoming sequel, some things I hope they do as a Mario fan, and some things I hope they improve upon from that first film. The Mario franchise is not known for its incredible storytelling, obviously. Yeah, there are some of the RPGs and parts of Galaxy, but as a whole, the games are not primarily focused on telling a compelling narrative. But there is a bare minimum requirement you usually have to fulfill for a film, and the Mario movie met that requirement. Good job, guys, but we need a little more for the sequel. No! The Mario movie has a story, but it's clearly more of an excuse for the characters to go on this fun adventure, just like most of the games. The script could have used a bit more fluff. It feels like there's a missing side plot where Luigi attempts to escape and just isn't completely sidelined for most of the movie's runtime. There also could have been a little more connective tissue between the important scenes, which as it stands are all the movie really has. Whenever the movie slows down, it's only for like a minute, and then it's straight into something else. The pacing is lightning quick and doesn't allow any room to breathe. Would it really have hurt to bump up the runtime by like 15 minutes? Just a couple more scenes would have allowed for a lot more character interaction and world investment-ness. But I don't know whether it's hopium or copium I'm puffing, but Miyamoto saying the story for this new installment is interesting makes me excited. Obviously, they aren't gonna have some super deep look into Mario's psyche, how he feels every time he finds a Goomba, but simply giving the cast a better reason to go on an adventure than Luigi needs saved, or arguably worse, Peach needs saved, is a W in my book. Maybe this new MacGuffin will greatly expand Mario's universe, make it seem even bigger and grander, up the stakes, introduce new characters and locales. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It just has to be interesting. You know how I mentioned introducing new characters? Well, if Yoshi's the only new one, I'm gonna vomit on some helpless kid as I leave the theater. Well, we've actually gotten sneak peeks of some leaked storyboards for this new movie, and if they're real, boy do they have something to say about where this movie will be taking the bros. Specifically, there's this one board where Mario and Luigi are walking through what looks suspiciously like a desert marketplace. And you know what Mario character is associated with? It's Daisy. Come on, it's Daisy. Yeah, technically Sarasaland is 4 different unique locations, yeah, whatever. Clearly, it is primarily associated with the desert, so maybe Daisy will play some role in assisting Mario and Luigi. But who else could they add? There are a few characters who I think could fit in with the right story. I don't see Wario and Waluigi being the main villains of the film like Jack Black suggested that one time, but I do see them being these comedic thorns in the protagonist's side, racing the protags and using their hard work to reap the rewards of the quest for themselves. But again, this would really only work with some great MacGuffin things, so maybe they wouldn't fit too well. But you know who absolutely would? Bowser Jr. Make him the main villain. Have him work with Kamek to free Bowser. Oh my god, it would be so perfect. You could also throw in some characters or species like Birdo or some Mario enemies that we didn't see in the first film, even if they're just cameos. I would also love to have some more deep cuts like Spike, but maybe I'm creeping into copium territory with that one. I briefly touched on this in the story section, but man, if the Mario movie has one problem, it's probably the pacing. The movie never gives the viewer a chance to breathe, which makes watching it a breeze, but also assists the weak story in making the whole experience feel a bit hollow. Let me show you what I'm talking about. 17 minutes into the movie, Mario has just landed in the Mushroom Kingdom, and if there's a really great metaphor for this movie's fast-ass pacing, it would be Mario and Toad literally walking and talking. They have to get through some explainy stuff that honestly wouldn't even take that long anyway, but they gotta keep the story moving. Again, it's just a metaphor, I'm not actually critiquing the scene for its pacing in particular. It is pretty quick though, only a little over a minute into this sequence and Mario's already coming for the Mushroom Kingdom. Then we cut to where Luigi landed in the Darklands, complete with a somewhat abrupt tone shift, but I think it works out because it keeps the comedic nature of the film intact. And this scene actually takes a little longer, because it turns into an action sequence, and as soon as the action's over, we're straight back to Mario. And this is a very good example of how the pacing impacts the moment-to-moment experience, shall we call it. It makes sense that Mario and Toad are in the town surrounding Peach's castle now, but it feels like something's missing because the previous scene didn't give the viewer enough time to digest that, and that's what people mean when they talk about the connective tissue between scenes being lacking in this movie. I mean, it was literally just 2 minutes since we last saw these two. The action continues to come in short bursts throughout most of the first half of the film, with the comedy and slapstick and dialogue all being very quick and a little frantic. This is what we want to avoid in the sequel. The movie can still be fast-paced. A fast-paced movie can still be good. Just tone it down a lot. A bigger story should warrant a longer movie anyway, don't you think? The Mario movie has a fantastic musical score, but you want to know what isn't fantastic? The licensed music. What were they thinking? People complain about the dog feeling super illumination-y, but I think the licensed song choices reek of studio interference way more. I think people might just forget that they're a part of the movie. Brian Tyler composed music for each and every scene that contains a licensed song, if I remember correctly, and some of these unused scores are some of my favorites in the whole soundtrack. My personal favorites are Driving Me Bananas, which was replaced with Take On Me by a-ha, and Carts, which was partially replaced with Thunderstruck by AC/DC. Most of these licensed songs feel alright in their respective scenes, but what each song is about has no correlation with what is going on in the movie. They're all just from the 80s. Ideally, I'd like to see licensed songs removed entirely from the next installment, and just have the great score, that's assuming it's great, which I think it will be as long as Brian Tyler returns, and if not, at least have the licensed music make sense this time. One final thing I wanted to touch on that didn't really fit anywhere else is the voice acting. It was generally surprisingly solid in the first movie, but I think we can do better. Charlie Day's Luigi fit really well, and Jack Black as Bowser worked surprisingly great. You can actually get his voice pretty deep, and it sounds in character for the most part. He just kinda sounds like himself when he's singing. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad also worked surprisingly well. You can barely tell it's him with how high his voice is, and I've always been weirdly okay with the Seth Rogen DK. I don't know, it just never bothered me. I think because Seth's voice just kind of works for this more overtly macho, weirdly insecure version of the character. Chris Pratt's Mario voice is fine. If he does the same thing again in the next one, I won't be upset. Although I have heard complaints that Pratt's accent is inconsistent or that he undelivers altogether, so I think I'm justified in asking for just a little more, maybe. Anya's Peach voice is fine, I guess. It just never really wowed me at all and doesn't really sound like the character. I think my main complaint with Peach's voice here would be that her voice is too deep and generic, whereas in the games, her voice has always been very high-pitched and distinct. But her characterization in this film is kind of a departure from her game counterpart anyway. Finally, there's Cranky Kong, who just sounds really bad. He sounds better at the fucking Donkey Kong theme park at Universal. Maybe because they got an actual voice actor for him instead of just an older celebrity. My main hope for the voice acting in the sequel is that they don't just choose voice actors that vaguely fit each role, even though I personally think it worked out well enough for the first film. Although it would be really funny to have another cast reveal situation, like back in 2021. So I guess I'd be okay with Tom Holland as Yoshi. That was a joke, don't fucking pull that, Nintendo. I loved the first Illumination Mario movie, but I recognize that a lot of the enjoyment I get out of it is purely because I am a Mario fan. If it was the same movie without all the Mario shit, I'd probably give it a 4 or 5 out of 10 instead of a 7. That's also why I want to see them do better. Yeah, it's Illumination, but clearly there's some passion and talent at that studio. I want the sequel to deliver, and allow me to admit with confidence, the original is kinda mid, instead of me feeling like I have to give it bonus points for appealing to me specifically. If the sequel ends up having another basic-ass plot with great action and music, I'll be fine with that, but I want a little more. I want the sequel to give me all the fan service I could ask for, all the references and musical motifs and amazing action scenes, while also being a good movie in its own right. That's all I have to say. Hopefully the next motion picture adaptation of the Mario franchise is good. The Mario movie has a fantastic musical The Mario movie has a fantastic musical score, but you want to know... The Mario movie has a fantastic musical score, but you know... Why am I struggling so much on this? Brian Tyler composed the...